Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to wrestle that huge stack of sources you sent us into something, well, clear and memorable. Today, we are grappling with something that's already changing your browser window as we speak. It's the complete convergence of traditional search engines and, large language models, LLMs. And the material you shared makes it clear this isn't just some neat tech feature. It's bigger. It's a really profound societal shift, fundamentally changing how you search, how you learn, even how you make decisions every single day.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Our goal here in this deep dive is really to unpack the ripple effects. Think about it. Search used to be about finding a map to information. You'd get links. Now it's becoming generative. It's transforming, really, into a system of conversational intelligence that often creates the answer for you.
Okay. So the job shifts. From retrieval here are 10 blue links to actual generation. Here's the answer. Synthesized.
Precisely. And that means we're entering an era where really fundamental aspects of work, of education, even civic life, they're all going to be shaped by this new kind of human-machine collaboration. We really have to look past the sort of, the novelty of the tool itself. We need to examine the massive interconnected systems these things are disrupting and the new ones they're building.
Okay, let's start where I think most people feel this impact first. The future of work. Forever, the knowledge worker's job involved a lot of manual gathering, sifting through information. Now, these LLM-powered systems, they're moving way beyond just simple access. They're becoming, like, genuine cognitive collaborators.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is how quickly they've become almost indispensable in some areas. We're seeing AI systems, routinely relied upon to draft complex documents, things like proposals, emails, sometimes even entire blocks of production code. It's quite remarkable. And they're excellent at summarizing huge volumes of research or extracting that needle in a haystack insight from data sets, stuff that would take a human analyst weeks.
Right. So they act like these interactive co-pilots, sort of guiding decisions in real time. Which, that's light years ahead of just clicking through a page of search results. But is this collaboration? Is it a clear net positive? I do hear skepticism, concerns that maybe we're just automating bad processes faster.
That's the core tension, isn't it? The profound shift is this. The knowledge worker's focus moves away from the manual assembly of information, the rote gathering part. It moves squarely towards strategic oversight. So the value you bring shifts. It's less about knowing where the information is and more about knowing what strategic decisions to make with the synthesized data the AI provides.
Which obviously boosts productivity dramatically.
That's
an immediate reward, right? But the sources you sent flagged this trade-off. They called it a serious risk.
They did. Some called it a kind of Faustian bargain. You trade skill for speed. If professionals become overly reliant on AI to do the complex synthesis, maybe frame the problem, or even draft that initial critical analysis, well, that core critical thinking, that independent expertise, it can erode. We gain incredible velocity, sure, but we risk losing real depth.
It's almost like outsourcing the mental reps you need to actually become an expert. If you always just default to the smart assistant, you stop exercising those muscles, right? The muscles of deep intellectual struggle. And that idea, cognitive outsourcing, it brings us perfectly to the next big challenge area, the future of learning. Education's always been structured around, finding information, understanding it, then applying it. Now, this instant availability of synthesized knowledge, it kind of upends that whole model.
Yeah.
What are the big shifts we need to brace for in education?
Well, the materials point to 3 key shifts that fundamentally change the student experience. The first one is access. Students get instant synthesized answers instead of, conducting that multi-step process themselves. Searching, evaluating, synthesizing, that whole learning process gets shortened, potentially.
You don't have to search. You don't learn how to filter, how to evaluate sources.
Exactly. The second shift is customization. AI tutors can now adapt to individual learning styles. They can offer explanations, practice, tailored specifically to your gaps or strengths. And the third is engagement. It can transform passive reading into something much more interactive, like a conversational dialogue with the material.
The opportunity there, though. It sounds immense. If we get it right, AI could theoretically democratize really high-quality, personalized education, make it universal. That's a massive win for equity.
That is the immense promise, absolutely. But, and this is the crucial balance point, there's the risk that students outsource too much cognitive work. The sources really emphasize this. We might lose the profound benefits that come from, productive struggle, from reflection, from synthesis. That happens when machines consistently do the heavy lifting for us.
The struggle is where the learning happens, where those pathways get forged in your brain. If I just skip all that hard work because the AI gave me a perfect summary, did I actually understand it deeply?
You might understand the summary, yes, but perhaps not the underlying concepts or the effort required to build that understanding yourself. So the future of learning, it really depends entirely on using AI not as a replacement for intellectual effort, but more as a
Yeah.
tool to amplify curiosity, maybe push students towards deeper, more personalized inquiry.
Okay, let's zoom out now from the individual worker, the student. Let's look at the systemic level. How does this convergence reshape how you, as a citizen, access information, how you evaluate it? This gets into big issues of knowledge, trust, and power.
Right, this moves us into the structural control of information itself. The first major shift is this move away from relying on sources, towards accepting summaries. When an LLM gives you a comprehensive answer, but maybe doesn't clearly link or attribute where it got the information, that chain of trust, it weakens.
And in that scenario, my trust could easily migrate, right, away from the traditional institutions that created the knowledge, the journalism, the academic papers, and towards the platform itself.
Mhm.
The platform that generated the answer becomes the ultimate arbiter of truth. Scary thought.
And that connects directly to this idea some sources raise, the bifurcated web. As licensing deals become more common, where platform A pays publisher B for high-quality content to train its AI, well, we risk a major split. We could end up with a high-quality, often paywalled web that's reserved for feeding these powerful LLMs, and then a broader free-to-access ocean of maybe unverified or even synthetic content left for the average user.
Wow, that sounds like a recipe for serious information inequality. If the best input is reserved for the AI, and the general public is left wading through lower quality stuff, that knowledge gap just gets wider and wider. And that brings us straight to the concentration of power issue.
This is probably the most pressing systemic concern identified. When a very, very small number of companies own both the search index, essentially the map of all human knowledge, and the sophisticated AI models that interpret and present that map, well, they gain disproportionate influence. They basically control the lens through which billions of people see and internalize reality.
Which immediately raises huge ethical questions. Who decides what counts as reliable knowledge when it's being generated by an algorithm? And how on earth do we ensure diverse voices and perspectives are actually represented in these AI-generated answers? It seems incredibly difficult.
And we also have to consider the technical systemic risks, things like model collapse. This is that scenario people worry about where the AI starts training on its own synthetic output, basically eating its own tail, content rise. And as a result, the entire knowledge base could become brittle, maybe less reliable, even unstable over time.
That is genuinely unsettling. Okay, so what does this all mean for us right now? We clearly can't view these changes in isolation. Work, learning, society, they're all tightly interconnected. We need to look at this whole picture. It's all one big feedback machine, isn't it?
That's the crucial understanding, yes. Systems thinking tells us these areas are linked by these relentless feedback loops. For example, users adopting AI tools shifts demand in the marketplace. Okay?
Okay.
That then alters the business models of, say, publishers, which in turn reshapes the financial incentives for creating high-quality content. And that resulting content quality feeds right back into the reliability and utility of the AI tools being used by the workers and learners we just talked about. It's all connected.
So poor incentives could lead to poor content, which makes the AI dumber, which frustrates the workers using it, and the loop just keeps going, possibly downwards.
Exactly. But recognizing these loops allows us to design proactive interventions rather than just reacting when things go wrong. If we acknowledge the risk of that weakened chain of trust, for example, we can push for policies that mandate transparent sourcing in every AI answer, make it a requirement.
Right, and knowing the risk of shallow learning in students, we could actively invest in creating high-quality, reflective educational content that specifically encourages using AI to dig deeper, not just summarize faster. Use it as a springboard.
These are the kinds of design interventions we need. They allow us to move beyond just being passive observers of this technological wave and instead become, proactive shapers of the entire ecosystem.
This has been a really critical deep dive. We're talking about the very nature of knowledge itself, it feels like. The future of search and AI. It's not set in stone. It's being co-created right now. By every query you type, every answer you decide to trust, every incentive we put in place as a society, it offers incredible opportunities for empowerment, absolutely.
Right.
But we have to be really vigilant about these risks of systemic dependency.
And I think that leads to the final, perhaps provocative thought for you, the listener, to explore. For leaders, for educators, for citizens navigating this enormous change, Maybe the most important task ahead is learning to see the system, see that interconnected feedback machine, not just the glossy individual tools, because only by recognizing those linkages, those connections, can we hope to shape a digital future that isn't just more intelligent, but also more equitable, more resilient, and ultimately more humane.
Fantastic insight. Really crucial things to think about. Thank you, as always, for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back next time with another stack of sources ready to be unpacked.